Today I'd like to show you how I like to tie a red and copper shrimp fly. I'll be using a size 8 gold Esmond Jury treble and size 80 red uni thread. So we'll just tie on 2 or 3 turns, cut off the surplus. Now using open turns, bring the thread down towards the hook and then back a few turns towards the middle using open turns. The first thing we're going to do here is tie in a tag, and in this fly we're using copper tinsel. So put on top of the fly, tie in with 3 or 4 turns. I like to use 3 turns of this. So there's 1, 2, 3, and in this case 1 more to tie it off, up between the hook, bring it round and to the front and tie off a couple of turns of thread. Cut off the surplus. We'll be using the same tinsel for the rib, and this time we'll tie in on the bottom of the fly. And tie it back towards the tag, and then bring the thread back towards the middle. The next thing we're doing on this fly is tying in some boar hair. Here I'm using boar hair that's been tied red. And to make it easier, I put the boar hair through the eye of the hook, and this will hold it straight along the shaft of the fly while I'm getting it all lined up. So 2 relatively loose turns hold in place. Now here we want it to be about 1.5 times the length of the fly, so 1, maybe a bit long, so that's about right. So now I'll tie this in. There we go. And cut off the surplus. The next thing we need to do is add in the bucktail. And again, in this fly, it's red bucktail I'm using. Now I don't want to use too much. Little is better than more, so I'm just going to use this amount. Take a little bit more out of it. There you go. Bring it on top of the fly and lock it into place. A couple of turns. There you go. And cut off all this surplus. And tie it up a little bit. Looks all right. Now the next thing we use is some flashy accent in copper, 1 strand. Lay this on the top of the fly. 1 turn and bring the rest of the strand back on itself. Turn a couple of turns. That looks all right. And also I like to use a single strand of a copper tinsel to go on top as well. This is very fine and quite mobile. So put it under the thread and bring it up to lay on top. Again, along the shaft of the fly. A couple of turns. Bring the other part of it up over, doubling it back. And now we just want to tie this all in. When you get back, you leave the ties slightly more open and then bring it back to the starting point again. There we go. Okay, now we'll just cut off some of this surplus stuff at the back. The next part to do is start the body. Now the rear of the body is made up of, again, copper tinsel. In this case I'm using UTC. It's very fine, very thin tinsel. So we need to be a bit careful with it. So we'll tie it in, lock it into place. Now here what I like to do, because it is so fine and a bit delicate, is I like to use a little bit of varnish on the body for it to tie onto. Right, so using open turns, bring it back towards the tail of the fly. Now once you're at the back, again I like to add a little bit more varnish between the layers. We'll just help it stay together when it gets munched. Again, touching turns, bring it back down the shaft to where we started. There we go. And using the thread, tie it off a couple of turns. And what I like to do is bring the tinsel back and lock it another couple of turns into place. And cut off the surplus. Next we need to do the front of the body, and in this case I'm using red Glow Bright fluorescent floss, and it's in number 3. It's quite fine, but anyway. So I like to lick it to keep it together while I'm tying it on. So tie it into the body of the fly, open turns back towards the front, and now we tie it in. Again, touching turns. Now we don't need to go all the way to the front because we've got to leave room for the hackle and the wing. So we'll tie it off there, hold it tight, couple of turns, thread back to lock it in place, again another couple of turns, cut off the surplus. Now we need to put the rib in. So there's the rib we got put in earlier. So around the back of the fly, and then even turns, bring it back to the front. And lock it into place. A couple of turns, back on itself, and lock it in with a couple of turns again. And cut off the surplus. At this stage, what I like to do is just give it another coat of varnish over the top to help protect the body of the fly. Now, because you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't matter, it takes a couple more minutes to make the fly. There you go. Now, while that's drying, we can get ready to do the wing. And in this case, we're using natural squirrel, non-dyed. So just grab a little bunch of it. There we go, and just tease out any of the surplus. Okay, a little bit too much still. So just, almost there. Yep, that'll be about right. So it's still drying, so we'll just need to wait another minute or two. I like to just back wind just slightly to where I'm going to start the wing. That'll do. So it's dry enough now, so bring the wind to the body. Again, you need to stop it just around the hook. So hold it in the front and between two fingers. A loose wind of thread to bring it to the hook. And then tighter as we go along. Okay, so that's in place, so we need to cut off this surplus. There we go. Tie up a little bit. Now I like to have the wings standing proud a little bit from the fly, so what I tend to do is I catch in the fly, the wing, and then bring the tying thread behind it and hook it round and do it again. There you go. See, it makes it stand proud. Again, finish here. A little top of varnish, and just give that a second to dry slightly. All we've got left to do now is the wings, the front hackle, sorry. Here I'm using two feathers. The first is a black, followed by a red. So get your feather and tease it out so the barbs stand proud. There you go, and bring it up to a fly just to make sure it's roughly the right size that you're wanting. Looks okay to me. And I think we can tie it in now. So bring it to the top of the fly. Tie it with 3 or 4 turns. And cut off the surplus. There we go. Now take the feather between some hackle pliers. Stand up straight, and what I do is just pinch the feather back a little bit, just to give us a little head start when we're winding it on. So grab the bottom of the feather and start your first turn. There you go. Teasing it back all the time. There you go. Looks alright. Keep teasing it back to keep it in place. Second turn. Now this is quite a fine feather, so I think I'll do 3 turns, but if it's thicker barbs, 2 will be enough. There's 2. I just need to keep teasing it back and bring it back up to the top. There you go. Now bring the thread up and lock it around the feather at the top. Now you have to hold it under tension here Keep it under tension at all times, and now a couple of turns to lock it into place. Now, oops. Now we need to cut off the surplus. Slowly pull out. And get rid of some little feathers are in their own place. Okay, now we use our fingers to tease all the feather back and just tie it off. There we go. Looks alright. Now we do the front feather, which will be red. Again, tease the feather out to make it all stand proud. Again, for some reason, this feather's quite a delicate one as well. Right, bring it to the top of the hook, tie it in, 3 or 4 turns, pick up the surplus with your fingers and cut it off. There you go. If that's too big, so cut off that bit as well. Again, grab it with a hackle plier and pinch it back. There you go. Okay, grab the bottom of the feather to start the wind. Teasing it back to make sure it'll go back. There you go, looks alright. Keep teasing it back. So first, again I think we'll do 3 here. So that's the second done. So 1 more. Again, teasing the feather back all the time. There you go, and bring it back to the top. And now lock it off at the top. The hackle plier off. Now again, keep the thread under tension. And a couple of turns to lock it in place. Okay, and cut off the surplus. There we go. Now again, couple more turns. Push the feathers back and hold them with your fingers. And tie in the head. So a few turns of thread. And using your hitch tool, tie it off. 1, 2, 3 turns. And we'll do it again just for good measure. 1, 2, 3. Cut off the thread. Tidy up the tail a little bit. Touch twinkle there. There you go. And there's my red and copper fly. All we need to do is varnish your head and it's ready to go. I hope you like it. I've had some success with this. Quite a few takes, especially at the back end of the season. Well worth a try. The red and copper fly.